Valentine's Day is just around the corner, so you know what that means. It's time to talk all about everyone's favorite subject, chocolate and wine pairings. Hi friends, I'm Erin. I'm the founder and chief sommelier here at the Wine Sisters, and welcome to our channel. This is the place where every week we teach you how to eat, drink, and entertain like a pro. And speaking of those three things, Valentine's Day is just around the corner. And FYI, that's also my birthday. But back to the task at hand. Valentine's Day is the time when we get all kinds of emails and DMs and people asking us for advice on how to pair wine and chocolate. And friends, I have gone on record before saying that as much as I love chocolate, and I truly do, chocolate runs through these veins, I am sure. But as much as I love chocolate and as much as I love wine, I don't always love the two together. Why? Because there's a few hard and fast rules to making a successful pairing, and while I'm not generally a stickler for rules, I find strictness a bit of a bore, and purist, well, who wants to party with a purist? But in this particular case, you really do need to adhere to some strict rules in order to maximize your amore of wine and chocolate. And today I'm going to tell you how. Now, the bottom line is, cutting right to the punchline, no matter what food you're having, you need to make sure that your wine is sweeter than your dessert. And why is that? Well, because if you don't, both wine and dessert will end up tasting flat, bitter, maybe even somewhat metallic or astringent. It just won't work, and everything will be stripped of flavor. Think about the last time you brushed your teeth and then had a glass of orange juice right afterwards. It's the same kind of premise. Your taste buds get all mixed up and it ends up just tasting flat and not at all appealing. Classic pairings for wine and chocolate are going to be really your dessert wines. These are going to be things like your ports, your sweeter styled sherries, your ice wines, even your off-dry table wines like Riesling and Gewürztraminer, or perhaps even your Spumantes and your Moscatos and your off-dry sparkling wines. These can all work really, really nicely. Now, I know what you're going to say now, and you're going to be like, I don't like sweet wine. For some reason, somebody got it in their head a long time ago that sweet wine is not as sophisticated as dry wine, and that's categorically untrue. It's just flat out wrong. Sweet wines have been made for centuries. They've been coveted for centuries. They've been enjoyed and shown off in some of the most prestigious kingdoms and courts all around the world. And if you do think about some of our more classic pairings that have gone down in history, think about Sauterne, which is a dessert wine that's made in Bordeaux, Sauterne and foie gras, or think about port and Stilton cheese. That's going to be another classic pairing. Now, those are savory and sweet examples, but you can easily do sweet with sweet. What makes sweet wine enjoyable and delicious is that even though it's a dessert wine, even though it's a sweet wine, even though in the cases of ice wine, you're getting, north of 100 grams of residual sugar per liter in some cases, it's not like drinking just sugar juice. It's not like just drinking syrup of some kind. There is a whole lot of acidity, the same kind of acidity that makes your mouth water when you suck on a lemon. There's a whole lot of acidity to balance that out and give you some real brightness, and that's what makes that sweet dessert wine so enjoyable. So how are you going to do this at home if you're going to be pairing any kind of chocolate? Well, here's your primer. Let's start with white chocolate. No haters. White chocolate is indeed a chocolate, and I'm not going to have anybody say anything against it. White chocolate, it's a delicately flavored, it's less sweet than, let's say, milk chocolate, so you can probably get away with having something that's less sweet of a wine. Remember, we're always going for a sweeter wine. So what you might want to consider doing is going for a Spumante styled or an off-dry sparkling wine. You could even get away with having an off-dry Riesling, a regular table wine. It just has a few more grams of residual sugar than, let's say, the driest of Rieslings. You could even get away with having a white ice wine, like a Riesling ice wine or a Vidal ice wine. These would all be lovely pairings, and they would be really sensational with it. Now, if you were going to go to milk chocolate, which is a very sweet chocolate, and one that I do really enjoy, it also has all that creaminess on the palate. That's when you want to start to go into things like your red ice wines or even your ports, your off-dry sherries. Again, the sweetness level needs to be more than the dessert itself. And finally, if you're really ardent and you really want to have your Amarone or your California Cabernet or, in some cases your Australian Shirazes, you really want to have these ripe, fruit-forward wines to go with your chocolate, well then, my friends, consider going with a dark chocolate, a bitter chocolate, something that's 70, 80, or 90% cacao, where the chocolate itself has really reduced sweetness, if any at all, and in fact comes through more as a cocoa bitterness as opposed to a sweetness, and that will really get you there. Now, if you're going to be doing something that's more along the lines of brownies or chocolate cake, again, you're gonna go back to your ports or your red ice wine. If you're doing a lighter dessert, let's say something like creme brulee or a panna cotta, then you're gonna go back to your spumantes and your Moscato d'Astis, your white ice wines, your off-dry Rieslings. You always want to play around and make sure that your wine is always sweeter than your dessert to maximize your pairing. And if this really stumps you, my friends, you know what you could always do? It's Valentine's Day. You could go for a beautiful cheese and wine pairing, which is my personal favorite. In fact, we'll be talking about putting together a winter cheese board next week, so do make sure you come back to the channel for that, because we've got some really great tips and tricks for you to learn about cheese and wine pairings next week. So that's your little primer. All you have to remember, your wine sweeter than your dessert, and you just have to play around a little bit. Hopefully you found this helpful. My name's Erin, I'm from the Wine Sisters. If you enjoyed this, please share it, leave us a comment, give us a like, and do subscribe, hit that bell to be alerted when we release a new video every single Wednesday. Until next week, friends, have a great Valentine's Day, find all the love that you can, and stay well and drink better.